Shouldn't financial advice focus on you, your goals, challenges, dreams for the future? At Modern Woodman, our goal is to help you plan for your financial security. Our representatives are people you can trust to help bring your dreams to life. Modern Woodman can help you plan for all stages of life, from protection to saving to retirement.
Contact your local representative at Arthur today at 989-834-3300.
Modern Woodman of America, touching lives, securing futures.
Hit record. That's okay. I was long-winded on the intro anyway.
All right.
Sorry, dude. I had an IBS flare up this morning. I'm dragging ass today. All right, let's try that again. We'll tighten up. Here we go. Coming down in 3, 2.
This podcast contains some strong language and some stories involving violence. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Warfighters United. My name is Calley. I'm usually the host, but today we're going to do something a little different for our listeners, and I'm going to have Scary Terry Stevens kind of be the host and interview me so y'all get to know me a little better.
That's right. You're in the spotlight now. How do you like it?
Actually, I like it a lot better.
Yeah, I know. I've had you on the air before. You like to talk. So, fam, Eric Calley, a while back, I was approached about the Warfighters United podcast, if it was something that Q106 could get behind. And I'm the face that runs the place at Q106. And I said, hell yeah, absolutely. Now, Eric has told you a bit of his background over the episodes of Warfighters United. I listen to this podcast pretty much every time I go to the gym. I used to listen to the angriest music possible, and now I listen to your podcast. You're like my workout buddy. and I hear, and I'm still angry, though, because I'm hearing about how our vets get mistreated. I mean, some of these episodes, man, I'm lifting, and I'm just mad as hell, and people are like, oh, he must be listening to, like, the new, death metal extravaganza. It's like, no, I'm listening to Eric tell me how pissed off I should be about how veterans are treated. I mean, dude, our guy Michelle, I was livid.
And I'm still working on that now.
Yeah.
I've been working on that for 2 months, and every time we think we make some headway, something happens, and we got to do something else. And I mean, it's totally frustrating, and I'll keep working on it until we get what we need.
Well, fam, go back and listen to that episode, and then you can join me and Eric and Michelle, and I don't know, we'll go knock on some doors somewhere in downtown Lansing, see if we can find somebody to talk to, somebody who may need to talking to. But while I am making thinly veiled threats at our elected leaders, instead of doing that, let's get this podcast back on the rails here. So I'm a radio host. I'm a capital C civilian, type 1 diabetic. I was diagnosed at 9 years old, never had the opportunity to serve. I certainly have had a lot of family who have. And one of the things I appreciate, Eric, about the Warfighters United podcast is the community that's there. When my pops and my uncles enlisted, it was World War II, right? They enlisted because they knew they were going to get drafted. And that's how it was back then. Your whole neighborhood would end up serving. And now, like, how many cats in your class ended up serving?
Probably about 6.
Right.
6 out of 200. So there wasn't a whole bunch, and there might have been some after they got out of high school, but coming out of high school, 6. And, growing up in a small town, 800 people, I mean, all we had in our town was a blinking red light, a VFW, and a bar at the corner.
Right.
And so we as kids would always end up hanging out at the VFW with my buddies' dads, people who served, so I got to meet World War II veterans, especially our Vietnam veterans, some Persian Gulf, but, along with my uncles who also served in World War II on my dad's side, and then my dad and his uncle both served in the Army. So, of course, me being a little bit harder than them, no offense, Army, but I went in the Marine Corps. And, my ass might ride in Navy equipment. We're just the men's department of it. And, I decided, I was 21 and I was going to Grand Valley State. And, this being the 24-year anniversary of 9/11, I still remember being in that lunchroom. And when I saw that plane hit, I knew right then and there that it was my duty, my job, and the patriotism around America to stand up and fight, to never let that happen again. And so the day after, I went to the recruiter and I signed right up for the Marine Corps. And they said, "Oh, don't you want to wait a little time?" And I said, No, I don't want to wait. I want to go now. Mm-hmm. And so, it was my time to join the wall of patriotism and war veterans that get to go over and serve their country to take out the Mujahideen.
Yeah. And at that time, and still today, it's still an all-volunteer force. So then when you come back, when you and your comrades come back from those theaters of conflict and having the experiences you don't have a whole neighborhood of other cats who have had those experiences. You've got 6 other dudes.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think this podcast fills a really valuable need in this community, is just to know. I think one of the most powerful things in the world a song can do is let the broken know they're not alone. And I think this podcast goes a long way towards that. And again, as a capital C civilian, being able to hear those stories helps me. I have no idea what it's like to experience the stuff that you and your comrades have experienced, but those stories that you tell, I've never walked a mile in those boots, but I feel like I've had a pretty good view of what that life is like thanks to this podcast and how raw and real it is, man.
It's about to get a lot more raw and real over the next couple of months. I got some lineups coming that everybody will be enticed to. You won't be able to turn it off. But, there's only been 2 times in history, 2, maybe 3, where United States is unified as one. And, the first time was World War II. You live in the state of Michigan. All of our car manufacturers, our plane manufacturers, everybody transformed into a big war machine. They started making planes. They started making tanks. They started making everything right out of Detroit.
Oh, yeah.
And families, kids, women, grandmothers, grandfathers, all jumped on a line to help out with the war effort. And then you go to Vietnam, we became divided as a nation, and it was really split, which was really horrible. And if it wasn't for those Vietnam veterans that stood up and created that wall to make sure nobody else was treated that way, that's probably why we get the respect that we do today. But 9/11 was that second time in history where United States became unified in one common cause, and that was to go over and, get bin Laden. Get Saddam. Let's get the guys behind that plane hijacking that killed so many innocent Americans. And, that's why it was my pleasure to go and serve, to be part of that wall. And that's what I do today. We got to fill in those gaps where our Vietnam veterans are dying. And that's where us Iraq and Afghanistan's vets need to stand up and start taking charge so we can look out for the next group coming after us.
Absolutely. Now, how old were you when you enlisted?
I enlisted when I was 21, so I was a little bit older.
You were a kid, bro. 21's still young, man. That's still really young. So, so here you are, a fresh-faced youth. I signed up for the U.S. Marine Corps. What was it like for you knowing that you were going into a combat zone? You didn't sign up for Chair Force. You weren't going to sit on a boat and fire rockets from the Gulf, okay? You were getting into the ish. So What was that like for you, man?
I tell you what, I signed up as an 0311, going through boot camp. That's what I thought I was going to do. I was going to be a ground pounder. And then as soon as I got to School of Infantry, they said, oh, no, you're not going to a unit. You're going to Light Armored Reconnaissance School. I said, well, what the heck is that? They said, oh, you're gonna fire a big gun, and you're going to be the tip of the spear for the Marine Corps. And I was like, okay.
Oh, damn.
I was like, let's
Tip
go,
goes in first, all right.
Yeah. And, when I saw that LAR vehicle, or the light armored vehicle with the 25-millimeter Bushmaster chain gun, 240 Gauss with 6 scouts in the back, I was like, hell yeah. I can walk half the time and ride the other half. I don't have to be a straight legger.
All right.
And so once I did that, and little did I know what the venture that would take me on, because as soon as I left, Camp Pendleton, they said, A through N, welcome to 29 Palms. And I'm sitting here and I'm going, man, what the hell is 29 Palms?
Yeah.
And the guy laughs. He's like, that's the biggest beach in America. I was like, oh, there's a beach. I was like, all right, that's cool. It's breezy. It's Camp Pendleton right outside of San Diego. We're dressed in our alphas. We got our sea bags and we're riding that bus. And sooner or later, the green starts going away. The brown starts showing up. And then all of a sudden, we might have been air conditioned in that big bus. But, man, you could just tell it was hot outside, right? Little did I know, it's like, welcome to the Mojave Desert.
Oh, damn.
2.5-hour drive, we pull into 29 Palms, and I'm looking for this beach, and all I see is what's called Lake Bandini. It's our sewage facility, You can go get a tan on it if you want. And I was like, oh, my goodness. And so little I know, it's the biggest training ground. And within a month, being a FNG or a fucking new guy, me and my buddy Bissell got called to the office along with 4 other Marines. And man, I thought I was in trouble. I was like, what did I do now? You know,
Right.
and they said, oh, you're going to get fapped out the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force. And I was like, okay, well, what is that? And they said, well, all generals use LAR vehicles for the communication vehicles on the front lines over when we deploy. And so for the next 2.5 weeks, you got to take both those LAR vehicles, make them spotless because General Mattis will be here to inspect for General Conway. And I'm like, wait a second. In the Marine Corps 9 months, and here comes a 2-star general. And back then, I didn't really know who General Mattis was, how big he was going to get.
Yeah.
And I still remember outside of our company office, we're all standing in attention. And here comes General Mattis and his entourage, you know, checking out the vehicles, making sure everything works, making sure they're good for his top command, General Conway. And that had been the first time as a young Lance Corporal meeting a 2-star general. That was pretty unique, you know, and I was kind of scared. I'm not going to lie. I was like, man, that's the biggest rank I've ever seen in the Marine Corps, let alone
right.
talk to for a second. You know, I'm trying to talk in position of attention whenever he tells me. And it was something else, you know, and little did I know, you know, by January of 2003, I'd be on a C-5 flight going to Kuwait to meet up with General Conway to go to Camp Commando.
And at this point, you deployed as his personal security detail.
Yes.
Or Lieutenant General Conway. I mean, that's, now not only have you enlisted, you're growing up in small town Michigan and now you've gone halfway across the world, okay? But you are now also responsible for the personal safety of a guy who outranks you by quite a bit.
Yes.
So what was that like for you, man?
I tell you what, at first it was kind of weird. You know, we got to Camp Commando. It was a good 2 months before the war started. And, you know, it was our job to start building everything up for all the units coming in. And you know, wherever the general went, we would drive him. Or, you know, he would fly in on a Huey. We'd pick him up. He'd go where he needed. He'd fly back out. We'd drive all the way home. And, you know, as we were starting to go into Iraq and whatnot, it was not only being a personal security detail, but, you know, we transferred him everywhere on the front lines. Wherever he needed to go, that was our job to do that. And in doing that, we had to provide safety for him. And Big Red, that was his name on the mic. 7 foot tall, red hair. I mean, the guy made me look like a midget. He did. I still have a picture today. I mean, I only came up to maybe mid-shoulder.
Oh, wow, man.
Yeah. I mean, the guy was huge. The guy was huge. And, you know, it's so uncanny if people know about Camp Commando, but about 2 days before the war started, Iraq started firing off Scuds with no directional aptitude. We had Patriots missiles taking them off, you know, and they say it gets like 95%. More like 70.
No.
Yeah, because one hit Kuwait, you know, one hit a couple cities in Kuwait. And then I remember I'm sitting at Camp Commando and we're in our hut and all of a sudden sirens start going. And so we used to do these siren drills. So we have what's called a nuclear biological chemical war suit. It's a suit made of coal for anything biological and chemicals, all that stuff. And all of a sudden you just hear the big explosion, right? And so everybody's freaking out. We're putting on our NBC suits. We're putting on our gas masks. And hell, we barely could fit in the HESCO barriers. And you have to stay there until they give you the all clear. So here you are, 110 degree weather. You got mop suits on, gas masks on, you know, sirens are blaring. And then we didn't even know what really happened at that point in time, but a Scud hit right outside the front gate of Camp Commando. If they would have been maybe four footballs to the left, they would have took out hundreds of us.
Oh, yeah.
And our number one general on the ground. And when you think about driving for a 3-star general throughout the invasion of Iraq, you start thinking about history. You know, you talk about Eisenhower. You talk about some of our commanding generals, you know, in World War II, World War I, what it was like for those guys driving them around on the battlefield.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so I knew that I was going to be a part of history. And I was like, this is probably going to be one of the most important things I ever do in my life.
Yeah.
And it totally was. I mean, I got to watch the war unfold through the lieutenant general's eyes and got to see everything he was seeing as he commanded the battlefield in the invasion of Iraq.
What is what was one of the most valuable things you learned from being that close with Lieutenant General Conway?
Well, I mean, one of the most valuable things I learned is not a lot of Marines and not a lot of soldiers. Not a lot of them get to meet those high-ranking officials. And watching him work, I still remember after we blew up the bridges in East Baghdad, about a day and a half later, we went and checked him out, and General Conway got off the vehicle, and he had his whole entourage of, all the people waiting for him to tell him what to do next. And he went out and he started tapping on Marine shoulders in foxholes. If I was a young Lance Corporal, looked up and saw a 3-star general saying, "Hey, Marine, how you doing?" I mean, I would have probably crapped my pants.
Right.
Like, and here he is, 7 foot tall. He's not worried about what's going on because he's got Marines in foxholes everybody, making sure that's all secure. Mm-hmm. And so he cared so much about his Marines. And a lot of younger Marines, younger soldiers, they don't see generals doing that.
Right.
And so just watching him and watching what he did on the battlefield was probably one of the most important lessons for me, just knowing that our higher echelon does care. Mm-hmm. And that, they're willing to put themselves in danger just like us. Yeah.
How did that inform your service as far as how you worked with lower ranking soldiers that you were in charge of?
Well, I mean, as long as they knew their job, they had a great time.
You got to light them up when you got to light them up. But.
Yeah. But it definitely, made me more proud of the service I was in.
So during that service, I mean, you spent, so when that Scud hit, as you said, 4 footballs away from where it would have done some serious damage, knowing that you were that close to an exceptionally lethal situation, man, how did you process that? Because there's a lot of cats, man, there's a lot of cats who would have said, you know what, I fold. I'm good. I've had my experience. I'm checking out, right? Like, that was a little too close for comfort. How did you power through that?
Actually, that pissed us all off.
Right.
Like, we were probably more gung-ho. Not only pissed off that we had to sit for 5-6 hours with a gas mask on in a HESCO barrier with all that stuff on until we got the all clear. Luckily, that Scud only went halfway off. It would have probably been 10 times more, bigger if the whole thing would have went off. But 2 days later, we invaded Iraq and through the Romulan oil fields. And, it was time to go to work. That's what we do for work. Like, life's on the line. You're there to kill the enemy and, power through and make it to Baghdad. That was our major push. And it wasn't even about a week. And then we got stopped dead in our tracks. And so anybody that's ever lived in the desert, I know in California and Mojave, they have their sandstorms, but guy from Michigan like me, like what is a sandstorm?
Yeah, the Sleeping Bear Dunes are really calm.
I tell you what, I remember just seeing a wall of sand. It was just a brown wall from as far as the eyes could see. And as that started pushing clear, they stopped the war for 3 days.
Wow.
That sandstorm took 3 days. And if you ever want to do watch, that is not the funnest thing. Sand gets into every crevice. It's the worst thing ever. Every 15 minutes, you're digging yourself out of the hole. And I still remember they said a convoy was coming in with a whole bunch of mujahideen coming straight for us. And so, man, we must have sat out there for 7 hours. And every hour we'd switch off a post and we'd go back into our 2-man tent, which sand was all over in there too. So, but at least you could breathe. And then about 6-7 hours later after doing that, they said, oh, yeah, that convoy went over this way. And nobody even told us. We were doing that for nothing, right?
But at least you were really exfoliated, what with all the sand blasting you every 5 seconds. Your pores were never clearer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's not talk about not being able to take showers for a month.
There's that part, yeah.
But yeah, if a Marine is happy, there's something wrong. Like that is like one of our sayings is if a Marine is having a good time, there is definitely something wrong with how he's being trained. Right? Because we thrive on that anger and that hostility. And and that's because, as you start going through your tours, it kind of makes you calloused in ways, right? When we started the war, and we were invading, all the kids would run to us. We gave them our food. We did this, and we started noticing that parents would take the food from the kids and starve the kids. right? Or, you know, when we were in East Baghdad, I still remember the first time I saw a woman get whipped, you know. The guy's got 2-3 women carrying stuff. He's behind him with a whip, just whipping them. And we're driving by and can't do anything about it. And I remember how angry that made us feel, you know, but that's their culture. You know, that's what they're used to. Women and children are, you know, for money, they're not worth anything. And, you know, the more women and children you have, the bigger compound you can have, and the more your kids can work to make that guy successful. It's a whole backwards area.
Yeah.
Coming from the United States, it really made me think about the freedoms that we have here and what people take for granted.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, we can, and don't get me wrong. I look, I'm a girl dad. I've heard a lot about the patriarchy, and sweetheart, I see it. Okay. And I know we've got it here, but trust me, they got it over there like a hell of a lot worse. It doesn't excuse what we got going on here, but what they've got going on over there in that culture with the way that women are treated, it's pretty damn awful. Inhumane when you get down to it.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, we met many people that Uday, all the sons of Saddam himself, that were tortured just because they thought something different. You know, their hands were cut off because maybe they stole an apple or stole something or you know, they had some real bad punishments. I remember a guy's back he showed us. We were at Uday's palace. He was so happy we're there. He was imprisoned for 5 years, and he had so many whip marks on his back, just scars. And he was like, thank God for America. You know, like, we've been mistreated, and he lifted up his shirt, and we didn't know what he was doing. And and then we saw the scars. It looked like Rambo in the movie Rambo.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was unbelievable. And you really start thinking, man, we're here to help these people. We're here to make a difference. But the sad part is during the invasion, we didn't know who was friend or foe. Right. So we had to treat everybody the same, you know, never trust anybody. Mm-hmm. They would, you know, wave their white flags and everything. And then as soon as they got to where somebody would see you, they'd shoot at you. Right. You know, they'd have guns hidden places. And I still remember that initial push, man. I mean, we went so quick, so fast that we were handing out food to all the kids, and then we didn't have any. And then because we're moving so fast, our supply chains couldn't keep up with us. So we went a couple days without food until they can give us MREs and everything. And that was just common, you know. And as you go through that tour, you start realizing that when you get into those Fedahim camps and, you know, East Baghdad where the slums are, kids playing in sewage, just all sorts of stuff. You feel bad for them, but you don't have time for that. You know, you're there to do a mission. You're there to accomplish a task. And it was definitely eye-opening when I came back. And I didn't really know how to deal with it. But being with the general, I got chosen for Marine Security Guard School, which is a top-notch school. You know, they send you to, you know, embassies across the world, and you're representing of America. So they're pretty strict. So they had us there for 7 weeks. They didn't let us out. We're doing hand-to-hand combat. We're picking safes. We're doing all this kind of stuff. That's kind of high speed. Yeah. And then one weekend they let us out, right? And me and the sergeant went out in town, and somehow we got a drunk in public. Man, it was, you know, like, next thing you know, we're in a tank till about 7:30 missed formation, and within 2 days, I was flying my ass back to 29 Palms. I was like, shoot, I screwed that one up, right? I screwed the pooch. And I get back to my unit, and they're laughing at me. They're like, yeah, we weren't sure if you're going to make it through, but get ready. You're going in 3 days. And I said, whoa, going where? He said, oh, you're on a flight, buddy. You're going back to Iraq. And so within a week of being out of Quantico, I was on a plane going right back from my second tour to meet up with my unit over in Fallujah, hit Haditha, Ramadi, all in the Sunni Triangle. And I was like, okay, here we go. Time 2. You know?
So I want to get back to your experiences with the population over there. You know, I remember seeing photos of what Iran was like before the Shah took over, and you had women, you know, wearing normal clothes. You know, normal's not the right word for it, but not covered head to toe, right? And they were dressed like, they looked like a fashion magazine, for God's sake. You know, you had universities, you had culture there that was pretty free and expressive, and then the Shah takes over and everything gets immeasurably worse. And you're describing these, kids playing in sewage and how desperate the situation was for them. And that's the thing of it, man. When you look at it, one has to wonder what would inspire a young man to pick up arms to defend a society that lets his children play in sewage, right? Like, why would he defend that? And, I think about what happens when people are impoverished and desperate.
Tyranny.
Yeah.
Knowing that if you don't, so a lot of those guys, if they didn't stand up and fight with Saddam, they would have been killed.
Oh, yeah.
Or their families would have been killed. I mean, they had a no holds bar. And I still remember lots of times that we would have Iraqis that kind of get embedded with us a little bit. Mm-hmm. And when they would go on leave, they'd get killed because they helped Americans. And we were in Nasiriyah. It was right after Jessica Lynch and the other 5 got taken. Mm-hmm. We're meeting up with General Mattis. And when we pulled up to the CP on the mouth of Nasiriyah, I was looking over and there's 3 women hung from trees.
Jeez.
Right? They had big signs on, and I was like, "Man, sir, what is that?" And the interpreter that was with us said, "That's what happens when you wave at Americans."
Wow.
And they just hung them.
Jeez.
And as that war started going, and especially in my second tour, we would find bodies on corners with signs on them. All over the place. They would kill them and they'd put them in a public area, so when you drove by, and what it would do is it would scare everybody else in that community to make sure that they weren't going to help us find the bad guys.
Right.
And that's just common, though.
That's
and
wild.
Like I said, you start getting calloused.
Right.
After my second tour was way worse than my first. When we started doing house raids every night, getting EPWs, throwing in flashbangs, separating women and children, getting everybody above 15 if they had more than 2 weapons in the house. I mean, and then, once you have some guys on the right and left of you get killed, you get angry. I still remember when my platoon sergeant got killed. About a night or 2 later, we went into Sacagawea and we pretty much destroyed that city. We painted our faces up all, with camo. We went in. And we probably came out with 75 enemy prisoners of war that night. I'll put them in the back of 7 tons so they could get interrogated. And, I mean, we went into a house and, I'll just go ahead and say it. We destroyed a house if we found more than a couple weapons. We tore it apart, but we were angry, right? Oh, yeah. And as that kept persisting, you just start getting more callous to the way it is around here. And I think that's what's hard for veterans to come out of a wartime era and try to fit into society or civilian life, is because that callousness, and especially guys that have 3, 4, 5, 6 tours, Afghanistan, Iraq, it's a 20-year venture that we went on. So there's millions of Americans that came back and just didn't feel normal being in society. And I was one of them.
We are going to get into Eric's post-service experience with reacclimating to society. But first, a word from the supporters of the Warfighters United podcast. Insert commercial here, Span. Thanks, Span. You're doing a spantastic job.
You're the best. Spantastic.
He's not really here. He's floating in the background. He's the Spantum Menace.
Hello, I'm Eric Calley from the Warfighters United podcast, and Modern Woodman Fraternal Financial is hosting the 4th annual Trucking for Troops Veteran Raffle to benefit local veterans. The raffle's grand prize will be a brand new 2026 Chevrolet Silverado Crew Cab 4x4. Raffle tickets are $100 each. The drawing will take place on November 10th at 2 p.m. All proceeds from the raffle tickets will go towards supporting veterans. All tickets can be purchased at Modern Woodman, Shaheen Chevrolet, or the VFW Post 2406 in Charlotte.
And we're back on the Warfighters United podcast. I'm Terry Stevens, the brand mangler of Q106, afternoon host of Scary Terry's Saturday Nightmare. And this time, Eric Calley is being interviewed on the Warfighters United podcast by this noodle-armed civilian. So, hey, man, and once again, I said at the jump, that one of the things I appreciate about this podcast is that you speak up about veterans issues and you let vets know that, hey, if you're going through something, you're not alone. Here's a program that can help you if you're dealing with this. Here's a service you can do to deal with that. And it's getting that info out there is imperative. I want to talk about I want to pick your brain about now you had mentioned, you're clearing houses, right? You are seeing your comrades getting cut down to the left and right of you. I mean, there's nothing that isn't traumatic about that, man. And then you come back here, and what was your journey like? When was the first time you realized, or did you realize? Did someone else come to you and say, "Hey, son, you got to sit down for a minute and work on this"?
Actually, people probably did come and say that. I just wasn't listening.
Isn't that how it goes sometimes, though?
I'll be the first. When I got out, a guy from Portland got killed, Dave Hoon. And, being from small town America, Lions right next door, he flew into Lansing from Dover. And I was a part of Charlie Company 124 out of Lansing for a little bit. So I took all their colors and, their flags and everything, and we had a horse and carriage waiting for him in Portland. I helped escort him back to Portland, put him on the horse and carriage, and then I led the way down to the funeral home. And, he was in Fallujah. His whole platoon, there was only 2 that lived, from 3 daisy-chained IEDs. So they're pretty much cut to shreds.
Yeah.
And that really played a part into, not only my anger, but, just being, knowing that I was out, like kind of missing getting back in the action. Like that fueled me. That was the kind of things that fuel Marines,
Right.
Like if you're not angry and pissed off, there's something wrong.
Right.
And having that mentality, it took me years. I mean, I got my first and only DUI in 2007, and that's how I kind of ended up in Ionia County Veterans Court. Did a 2-year program, did it successfully, and they asked me to be a mentor. And so, Ionia had the first Veterans Court, and I thought, man, that's wiped off my record. Everything's great. I'll help other veterans do that. And what I didn't know at the time is helping veterans is great. It fills you. It really fills your heart. But, like 2 years later, one of the guys I was mentoring, I picked him up from Battle Creek to take him. He popped on a drug test down there. Took him back to his house, Marine. He'd graduated with me. Mm-hmm. I saw him in Iraq in my first tour at a phone center just out of nowhere. And so when he ended up in the Veterans Court, I was like, I'll be his mentor.
Yeah.
Right? So instead of taking him straight to jail, I took him back to his house. And I was like, look, dude, you're going to jail for 45 days. Take a shower. Do whatever you want to do for a minute. Mm-hmm. And then I'll take you down, drop off all your stuff so you're not going there with 3 bags. And little did I know he had an ounce of heroin upstairs.
Oh, man.
Right? And I hear a thump. And, call his name out a couple times. He doesn't answer, so I go upstairs, and he's ODing on me. He's dying.
Oh, man.
Right? And so I gave him CPR for about 15 minutes until the paramedics get there. They gave him the Narcan and started working on him and saved his life. And
oh, thank God. Okay.
And when we were in the hospital, we're sitting there, and he actually came out of his stupor from the drugs. He looked at me and said, "You shouldn't have done that."
Yeah.
And I was like, I knew right then and there it was a purposeful act, right? And so, I tried to work with the court system. I said, hey, when he gets out, let me know. We get him put in somewhere, some inpatient place.
Yeah.
So this doesn't happen again. This was purposeful. Well, of course, like any other jail in America, they could care less about the inmates. Mm-hmm. It gets overcrowded. They let them out early. And
yep.
And he got out that morning, went straight home, and did it again, and this time he succeeded.
Oh, man.
And so that cut me up inside.
Had to.
And
yeah.
I didn't know how to deal with that because I felt maybe I could have done something different. Maybe I could have done this, done that, like I was just seeing red.
Right, yeah.
And that's what got me out of the court system. Not that the Veterans Court's a bad thing. I mean, now we have 55 because of Ionia in the state of Michigan, helping veterans all the way around. But, that kind of thing plays with you. And as you keep helping veterans and more veterans take that bad path and commit suicide, it really makes you wonder if you're doing the right thing.
Right.
And it will eat you up inside if you let it.
What do you think has kept you from going down those darker paths? Because you have look, you live in this country too. You have access to the same recreational pharmaceuticals. If you decided, hey, I want to go ride the dragon for a while, you could probably find the stuff. What do you think has kept you from going down that dark road?
Well, I mean, there's quite a few things. I got married in 2009, had my first kid in 2011, and so I think kids really play a part in making you grow up and try to be more responsible. And I'm not saying I'm the best dad either. I have my flaws, but service dogs help me out quite a bit. I've had two. I'm going on my third right now, and I think any type of animal is nurturing, affectionate, and can really get you out of some dark places. But, I've been in those dark places. I think it was 2017. I reached one of those dark places, and I went down to Battle Creek, and they said, we don't accept service dogs in inpatient facilities in Battle Creek, VA, and they still don't.
What the hell?
And I said,
Serial City, we need to have a talk.
I said, okay, well, I'm not going inpatient then. They're like, well, you need it. And I said, well, I need my service dog. Mm-hmm. And so luckily, through Semper Fi Fund as America's Fund, I have a great caseworker. She knew that I was in a bad place and I needed some help. And so she called me within a day or two and said, hey, I'm going to send you down to Tampa Bay Wellness Center. You're going to go down there for a month. Your dog is welcome. You need to find somebody that can fly with you, because we need somebody to fly with you to make sure you make it there. And
right.
So my older brother, Brian, took a day off work. Especially him being the lieutenant governor, that probably wasn't easy. He flew me down to Tampa Bay.
What's the lieutenant governor doing? He had time.
I went down there and I did some psychotherapies, EMDR, with Jenna Temple, which is probably one of the best EMDR people in the nation, and she kind of helped me compartmentalize some of the tragedies. And what I didn't think about back then is when you have a tragedy happen, something that's horrible, we always think negative, right? And I was one of those people, and sometimes I still am. What kind of benefits can come out of this, right? But when you talk about the gift of life, right, the gift that these tragedies give you, right? So I have a lot of friends who are amputees, and it starts off as what am I going to do with myself? I don't have a leg, or I don't have this, I don't have that. Right. But as they start thinking about it, and I have numerous of them became motivational speakers to help others just like them, or to help our veterans, and they start talking about the gift of losing their leg, and it took me a while to process how that could be a gift. Right. But what I started noticing is if you start thinking about the positive gifts and things, even though they're most horrible things ever in your life, and you start just picking out a few positives that come from it, like learning some lessons or doing this, the gift of realizing that you can either make the worst of things or you can make the best of things. And when you make the best of things and use that negativity to be positive, you can influence a lot, and you can cause a lot of other people not to go down those same roads as you do. And so, just starting to transform the way you think, create new neural pathways, because every time something bad happens, it goes right back to something you remembered that was negative a long time ago, right? Right,
and it takes you back to those same emotions you were feeling when you experienced that trauma the first time around. You're essentially reliving it. It's a self-inflicted deja vu.
Yeah, and it's the same thing, when you deal with post-traumatic stress, right? You get those flashbacks. I still remember I was about a clip of AK-47 rounds. We were outside Route Mobile, and one hit about a foot in front of my face into the wood. And I was drinking coffee at 7 a.m. I was not expecting AK-47 rounds to come into our paws. And the fact that it was a foot away from my face, and I could, boom, you could feel the bullet speed hit your face. And I took my squad and I went across the tree. The squad rushed up and came down, and there's always that 50-year-old sheep herder, right? No, mister. Don't know, mister, right? Mm-hmm. After so much of that, when you know it came from right where he was,
right?
Even though it wasn't him, but you know he knows where that guy went,
mm-hmm.
you get fueled with anger,
right?
You know, and I had about had it, and I kind of tackled him. I'm not gonna lie.
There's no kind of tackling. I mean,
you know, and I got in trouble for that too. I mean,
Yeah.
I had a lieutenant, and luckily he was, you know, he said, Corporal Calley, you can't be doing that. And I said, sir, he knows exactly where the fuck it came from.
Right.
I was like, he knows where that guy went. We need our interpreter to interrogate him,
mm-hmm.
you know? But of course, you know, that stuff happens, right?
Right.
You know, hell, he's lucky he didn't hit any of us.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt.
You know, because that would have been even worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, and that would have, you know, a common theme that I hear when you're talking about these experiences you've had and the mark they've left on you, the word that keeps coming back is anger. And I don't know how you couldn't be pissed off when someone is actively trying to kill you. It's like, oh yeah, right? So I guess like, what factors or what practices, what techniques have helped you to mitigate that anger? Because, dude, look, I'm the host of a metal show. I'm an angry freaking guy. Okay, I these lines on my forehead, this big canyon between my eyebrows here, that is from being constantly pissed off. You've watched The Avengers, right?
Yep.
That's my secret, Cap. I'm always angry, right? So what have you done to mitigate that and to make sure that anger doesn't ruin your freaking life? Because it can.
Well, I mean, it almost did. You know, but a lot of intensive outpatient programs. I've went through so much therapy that I could probably teach half of those courses. Mm-hmm. I went to a peer-to-peer support specialist course here that the state offers, so I could start helping other veterans and trying to use my anger and my story to benefit others, so it's not so angry anymore, and talking about it.
Right.
You know, compartmentalizing, realizing that, you know, that's in the past now. You can move forward. You know, living in the past is just as detrimental as staying angry all the time. And I used to wake up angry every morning. Like, just out of nowhere, I'd just be angry. But I was used to that, you know, and you have your bubble. Right? You have your little bubble that you like to live in. Everything's comfortable. Getting outside that bubble, that's the uncomfortable part, and that makes you feel uneasy, right? But as you get a little farther outside that bubble, that bubble starts getting bigger. Mm-hmm. It starts getting bigger, and then, you know, with the use of service dogs, with the use of support networks, groups, you know, Focus Marines Foundation, I just got back a week ago, or not even a week ago, 3 days ago. I went down there to see what they've done with their program over the last 10 years, because I used to be a mentor down there. And wow, has that changed. And I tell you, every time I go to that program, even though I always learn something new. Always learn something new that I can put in my toolbox. That way, when I meet other veterans, I can take that out of the toolbox and give it to them.
I was going to say, when you are counseling other vets and working with them, do you find that like, I know that when I'm training like a new radio person, right, and I'm walking them through the fundamentals, right, and they're asking questions, and I'm walking them through, this is why we do things this way. I find that like it sharpens my skills. Do you find that it sharpens your coping skills?
Oh yeah, of course, and it makes me realize not to go down some of the same paths I went down before.
Yeah,
you know, when I meet veterans that are having issues, I see myself in them, mm-hmm. right, and I know what it took for me to get out of that, and so I can help gear myself in helping them get out of it, right, and things that I've used, you know, programs. You have Semper Fi Odyssey. You know, General Jones puts on a 7-day transitional program at no cost to our vets down in Pennsylvania. I've probably been to that course over 25 times. So I've probably spent 25 weeks there, not only helping veterans, but helping myself too, because, you know, you're only as big as what you want to do with yourself, right? And you can't help others until you help yourself, and making sure you're in a good place. And that's what I didn't do in the past. Mm-hmm. I would help until I had no help to give. And then it ended up into a dark depression.
Yeah.
Right? And so realizing when you're starting to go down that path is key. A realization for any peer-to-peer sports specialist or anybody helping veterans, you know, like not blaming yourself when a veteran decides to take that other road and you've done all you could. You know, and that's a hard pill to swallow. Mm-hmm. And, you know, unfortunately, I swallowed that pill over 10 times at least.
No kidding,
over the last decade.
Yikes.
And, you know, going to funerals, you know, talking to their wives, their kids, their family members. It can play a huge part in, you know, how do you get past that? Well, you confide in people. You know, you use those support networks. It's kind of like an alcoholic with AA. You know, once they stop drinking and they're really enthused into AA, things start getting easier. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing for us veterans talking to other veterans. You know, how did you deal with this? Because veterans only listen to veterans, and word of mouth is key. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I like the Focus program. They don't, you know, promote themselves. They don't do anything. It's all word of mouth. So most of the veterans that come down there is from another veteran that was already there.
Right.
And that seems to propel that program forward. To helping guys from across the nation, from every state in the United States. And they fly them in at no cost to them, you know, 7 days down in Augusta, St. Louis area. Mm-hmm. And I tell you what, you know, they've got that program down to a science, just like General Jones does at Semper Fi Odyssey. And what the other big help was is finding out about TBI. You know, I didn't even know I had that until 2018, and went down to the 22 Project down in Boca Raton, Florida, which is a free month. Down there doing hyperbaric oxygen chamber treatment, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. And, you know, pure oxygen. It's amazing how that heals the human brain.
Eric showed me the brain scans, your before and after brain scans, and seeing the healing that's occurring after you've been exposed to 100% pure oxygen, seeing how it fixes up those lesions basically that you have. What caused your TBI? Was that just a concussive force of what you were dealing with?
It was a few different things, you know. I mean, and not only a concussive force, but you know, there's a few different times. Like one was a skydiving accident where I had pretty hard.
Oh no!
You know, a low hook turn didn't help me out at all. But you know, that's a treatment. It's in studies right now, year 3. And that's the sad part. When I was talking to Blunky from Grunt Life, he was telling me, you know, when they do pharmaceuticals, you know, maybe a 6-week to 6-month trial on these pharmaceuticals before they give it to people.
Right.
Right? They make billions of dollars on it. Well, if it's pure oxygen and they can't sell it, you know, it's a 5-year study. Mm-hmm. And so hopefully by 2028, the VA will get on board and start giving us that treatment. But right now they don't. So we have to rely on nonprofits. Medical companies, insurance companies, they will not sponsor hyperbaric oxygen chamber treatment. Like Medicare A, Medicare B, they won't even cover it. You have to pay out of pocket.
Right.
And so, you know, if you got a TBI out there, there's one in Colorado, there's one in North Carolina, nonprofits, look up HBOT therapy. And then there's the 22 Project with Alex Cruz, and he was on one of my first podcasts that I did.
Yeah.
Just because it was the least invasive thing with the most amount of help that it ever did for me. And, you know, I'm hoping to do that again as well.
And fam, if you are dealing with TBI, please go with one of those organizations. There are some, hell, we just had this happen in, I believe it was the greater Detroit area. There are quasi-medical practitioners. You know the practice. I'm not going to name names because then I'm going to get a bunch of angry emails. They have these hyperbaric chambers, but they're not maintained properly. They're not they're not dealt with properly, and there have been some pretty tragic circumstances. Yeah, just I'm going to leave it to you to Google that. Just if you're going to do hyperbaric oxygen treatment, go with one of the providers that Eric's talking about, and not some quack who might set you on fire inside of a freaking hyperbaric oxygen chamber. Like, seriously, that's it. Go with a professional.
And unfortunately, that instance gave everything a bad name.
Exactly.
It's going to make everything harder for us to get that great treatment. So.
Right, man. This is what happens when this is why we can't have nice things. Damn grifters.
Yeah,
That's what it is, man. So one of the other things that you've advocated for, obviously, are service dogs. So you actually helped to create state laws in Michigan for service dogs. So walk us through how that happened.
Yeah, so I just got Sun, my second service dog. I was flying back down to Florida to go to Guardian Angels Medical Service Dogs. I got to Detroit, and they, I went to go check in, and they said, "Oh, you have a service dog?" And I said, "Yeah." And they said, "Oh, well, we don't have any space." And I said, "What do you mean? I got a seat on the plane. You got to give me adequate space. That's federal law."
Yeah.
She says, "Well, I can't do it right here, so you're going to have to go to the gate." So, I walk through, I go to the gate, and next thing you know, I'm up there at the gate saying, "Hey, I need some adequate space for my service dog." She's a Doberman Pinscher. She's a little bit bigger than most dogs. And, of course, the guy there started giving me a hard time and said he didn't have space. And I said, "But it's a federal law. You guys knew I had a service dog when I ordered the plane ticket."
Yeah.
And, he started giving a hard time, and I'm standing there, and he starts complaining about me to the guy next to him, about how these fucking service dogs and all this stuff. And I'm sitting there going, what in the world is going on?
I mean, that would be like,
I want to talk to a manager.
Right. That would, I'm sorry, but that would be like complaining. Like, my mother has a pretty significant physical disability. Her walk has always been messed up. She's always had mobility issues. And look, walkers, wheelchairs, those take up space too. That would be the equivalent of somebody saying, "We don't have space for your wheelchair." I mean, good God, man! Service dog, you don't get service dogs for funsies.
No.
They serve a very valuable role in a person's life. If somebody, there are service dogs for diabetics who can detect when your blood sugars are off. For Pete's sake, they are absolutely brilliant creatures. Well, my mom's best friend had a service dog. She had a cerebral palsy, and I couldn't imagine her being told that, and her service dog was the size of a brontosaurus. Good God, this is a big dog. I couldn't imagine, sir, if I was in an airport and my mom's best friend was being talked to the way this cat was talking to you,
it gets worse.
I would have a felony.
It gets worse.
Oh God, okay.
It gets worse.
All right.
The plane that they come in, once I got the manager, and the manager's working on the computer, she got me an extra seat, so my dog had space. And, the guy from the plane gets off, the stewardess or whatever you call the flight attendant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the guy who just got in trouble for not giving me adequate space starts talking to this guy, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching, right? Mm-hmm. I got my head on a swivel now.
Right, yeah.
I'm not very happy.
Your situational awareness is high.
So I see the one that just got in trouble talk to his friend who was the flight attendant, telling him all about what just happened, right?
Right.
And so I get on the plane, and as soon as we start taking off, of course, this is like the second or third time my dog has flown. So she jumps into the seat next to me and just cuddles up with me, right?
Yeah,
She's a little scared.
Yeah.
This guy comes back and says, "What are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean, what am I doing?" He says, "Your dog can't sit on that seat." And I was like, "Okay." So I put my dog on the ground. I had her lay down. She's laying at my feet. He's like, "That's illegal. Dogs can't sit on the seat." I said, "Sir, my dog's at my feet now. I won't. She's fine." "Well, you need to know that that's not right." And I said, "Okay, well, my dog's already there."
Yeah, the situation's passed, homie. Why are you mad?
Please leave me alone.
Right,
I just want to fly on this plane.
Right.
And, of course, my dog got a little unantsy, and she put her paws on the seat, and he came and yelled at me again. I was like, okay, I put her back down on the floor, and of course, people start saying something to him about what he's doing, about how it's wrong, like the people in the seats behind me.
I got news for you, homie.
So
people like dogs.
He starts arguing with them. Okay. Right? And of course, we start descending, and my dog puts her paws on the damn seat again, right? And I'm like, oh, here he comes. He comes. I mean, he had like a personal line straight to me because I was in the front of the plane where they, he could see where
you were in the bulkhead.
Yeah, yes. I was like right in the front, and man, he started talking to me again, and I was like, "Sir, I understand that. I put her right back down. Can you please leave me alone? You don't tell me what to do."
Oh,
I was
my.
like, okay, I'm not. And here, all these people behind me start chirping at him.
Mm-hmm.
And, as soon as I got off the plane, I went to make a complaint, and there was 15 to 20 people in a line waiting to make complaints about this stewardess, right?
Oh, damn.
And, of course, here comes this guy in his cart, because I have another plane to catch to get down to Florida. And so the worst thing ever that could possibly happen is now you're in a cart driving to the next plane, and here's 40 people in a line waiting to get on. You drive up. Then the guy says this guy had a problem because of his service dog. We're going to let him on first, all this stuff. And he starts telling his story about what happened in front of all these 40 people. And like,
oh, man.
Wow, how embarrassing. Wow.
Well, it's more embarrassing for that flight attendant who's being a prick to a guy with a service dog.
I found out later that whole flight attendant crew got suspended for that day and wasn't allowed to fly that day. And I don't know what happened to him after that.
Yeah.
But I got down to Florida and spent a weekend down there for the graduation party, and when I went to get on the plane, they kicked me off the flight because there wasn't space because it was a small plane.
Huh.
And so I had to wait 2 hours, and I started noticing this wasn't just a little problem. This is so airplane.
If this happening to you, it's happening to somebody else too. Yeah.
And they have autonomy because they fly from state to state to state. Mm-hmm. So you can't really do anything. You can fill out that form with the federal government. It takes about 6 to 9 months before they'll even call you back about any FDA complaints or whatever.
Yeah.
And so when I got back, we LSJ. Miss Adhern did a deal, and next thing you know, it got picked up nationwide.
Oh, wow.
So here I am on the front page of every newspaper across the nation, from California to Washington, D.C., and it became a big topic. So next thing you know, we decided, I work with Tom Barrett, I work with my brother and Rick Snyder and some others, and we decided to make Michigan state law because they would kick us out of a hotel or say we can't have dogs. Mm-hmm. Not even guiding by the federal rule. But then when you call the police would say, oh, that's a federal law. We don't enforce it. We can't. You have to be federal to enforce that. We're state employees.
Right.
So we started realizing, okay, well, let's make state law. And
right.
Now Michigan is one of 12 to 14 states in the United States that have state service dog laws. And so if you have a service dog, you can go to Michigan's civil department. You can fill out the little application, and you can get a voluntary state of Michigan patch. It doesn't cost you anything. It's totally free. Mm-hmm. And what it does do is that allows your dog, any facility you go into with that patch on there, they have no right to even question you because the state has already vetted your dog out.
Right.
And so they ask you for, where you got it trained and everything. But what it also does is it creates a list that the Michigan Veterans Affairs agencies and others can use when handicapped people need dogs. Well, these are some accredited places that you could look at, right? And so it does a double part function. But what it does do is it allows that veteran or that handicapped person with that service dog to never get questioned because the state has already done its job for you, and it's totally free. Mm-hmm. And so that was one of the biggest feats that I've been able to accomplish over the last decade or so. And, I'm super proud of that for our people that have service dogs out there. And flying in the airport last week, 2 different times to St. Louis and back, I probably saw 10 dogs each time I walked through the airport. And it looks like things have changed.
Good, man.
They didn't look pissed off.
Well, you were talking.
It's amazing that it's changed that way.
Well, you were talking earlier about how you take these negative experiences because you're traveling. Traveling sucks. It's hurry up and wait, especially if you're at the airport. Your dog is stressed out too. Now you got this jabroni coming up on you, trying to give you a bunch of grief because your dog, who is on a small tube full of people, which is a very foreign experience for a dog. There are no treats nearby, right?
Yeah, no bathrooms.
Right. This so you got this jabroni. So he's stressing you out. Everybody behind you is getting agitated as well. And you took what could have been a very negative experience. Look, dude, if you decided to get redneck on him, you could have. It could have been real bad.
Yeah, but that definitely wouldn't have helped me out.
Dude, you kept your cool, and then you used this experience to affect positive change. Well, that's a beautiful thing, bro. That's awesome.
And that's exactly the thing that we do as veterans every single day. Veterans do that for veterans on a daily basis. When somebody's doing something or a veteran's having an issue, and another veteran knows how to fix it, I mean, we stand up. You know, we create that wall of patriotism to make sure that we can help each other. And that's why I created Warfighters United, is not only to get the information out there, but to be able to give resources, transitional programs, veterans' voices, you know, like we were talking about Michelle or my buddy Rob Vidaro or my buddy James Sperry. You know, like all of these people that I interview in one way, shape, or form, if it wasn't for what happened to them, we would never get change at all.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. Hey, I appreciate you stepping up and speaking out. And we are coming up on time. That is Eric Calley, the host of Warfighters United. If this is the first episode you're listening to, don't worry, I'm not here all the time. I'm Terry Stevens. I'm the afternoon host on Q106. And, one thing that's baked into the DNA of Q106 is making sure that we are stepping up and supporting our vets as well, whether it's through our all request drives or through the 22-day 22 push-up challenge, which is back
coming up.
You know why it's back up to 22? Because I freaking listened to Warfighters United and learned why they changed the number, and it's not because they were wanting to report things accurately. So, yeah, I'm telling you, fam, Warfighters United podcast, it is sometimes an anger-inspiring listen. So that's why I listen at the gym. I get mad and I lift heavy things. But it's also very educational. I've learned quite a bit, and some of these stories that your comrades have shared are frankly harrowing. Like the fact that y'all go through stuff like that and are still able to function as members of society is freaking amazing. It's really a testament to y'all's resilience. It really is, man.
I appreciate that.
Well, and these resources you're getting out there, I think when you go through trauma and you come out of the service and you're angry as hell, there's a lot of bad actors that would love to take advantage of someone who's mad and just looking for something to punch. Well, hey, buddy, those people over there, that's who you need to be mad at. There's a lot of bad influences that can get a hold of cats. And God knows we've read plenty of stories about a guy who did some time in the service, fell in with a bad group, fell in with some criminals, and ended up wilding out, man. When you're in your 20s and you don't have any hope, it's easy. You're easily exploited at that point. And the fact that the fact that you're getting out the information about these services, about these programs, where if your head is on fire with rage and you're thinking some bad thoughts about others, you're thinking some bad thoughts about yourself, hey man, pick up the phone, call any one of these organizations and they'll get you straightened out. Or
you can go to warfightersunitedpodcast@gmail.com. You can email me. I mean, most of my information is on the web. Contact me, and I have places that can help you.
Hell yeah, man.
At any time.
At the end of the day, the world is better with you in it, and Eric's here to help you make sure you stay in it. Eric, thank you so much, brother. We appreciate you.
Thanks for being our host today.
There you go.
To speak with Eric Calley and Warfighters United, you can email him at eric@warfightersunited.com or call 517-699-0111.